Welcome to Do the Math America. I am Charlene, the Math Shaman.
Percents and decimals are covered on pages 87 and 88 of the Beginning Algebra book. Please see the link in the description box below this video of the PDF file, which you can use to print out a hard copy of this textbook. The following examples show us a general relationship between percents and decimals. 45% equals 45 100ths, either written as a fraction, 45 over 100, or as a decimal, 0.45. 120% equals 120 hundredths, or 1 and 2 tenths, or 1.20. 25.4% equals 25.4 100ths, or 254 thousandths, written as 0.254. To change a percent to a decimal, we move the decimal point 2 places to the left and remove the percent sign. To write 20% as a decimal, we first write the number 20, and then we take the decimal place, which is behind the 0, and move it to the left 2 scoops over, or 2 place values over, to end up with 0.2, or 2 tenths. 2% written as a decimal, you start with the number 2, and you again bring the decimal point over 2 places to the left to end up with 0.02, or 2 100ths. 2 tenths percent, or 0.2%, written as a decimal, you start with where the decimal place is and you move it 2 spaces to the left to end up with 2 1,000ths, written as 0.002. To write 2 hundredths percent, or 0.02%, as a decimal, we write 0.02 and we take the decimal and we move it 2 places to the left to end up with 0.0002, or 2 10,000ths. To write 25% as a decimal, we start with the number 25. The decimal point is to the right of 5, and we move that decimal point 2 places to the left, giving us the decimal 0.25, or 25 100ths. 2 and 5 tenths percent, or 2.5%, written as a decimal, we start with the number 2.5 and we take that decimal point and move it 2 places to the left, giving us 0.025, or 25 1,000ths. 25 hundredths percent, or 0.25%, written as a decimal, you start with 0.25 and you bring the decimal point over to the left 2 places, giving us 0.0025, or 25 10,000ths. 125%, written as a decimal, we start with the number 125. The decimal point starts to the right of 5. We move the decimal point over 2 places to the left to end up with 1.25, or 1 and 25 hundredths. 225%, written as a decimal, we start with 225. The decimal point starts to the right of 5. We move it 2 places to the left to end up with 2.25. 925%, written as a decimal, we start with the number 925. The decimal starts behind the 5. Move the decimal point 2 places to the left to end with a decimal 9.25. 25.7%, written as a decimal, we start with the number 25.7 and we move that decimal point 2 places to the left to end with 0.257, or 257 1,000ths. 125 and 7 tenths percent, or 125.7%. Written as a decimal, we start with the number 125.7, move that decimal point 2 places to the left to end with the number 1.257, or 1 and 257 thousandths. 1,325 and 7/10%, or 1,325.7%, written as a decimal. We start with the number 1,325.7, move that decimal point 2 places to the left to end with the decimal 13.257, or 13 and 257 thousandths. To change a decimal to a percent, we do the opposite. We move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add a percent sign. The decimal 2/10, or 0.2, written as a percent, we move the decimal 2 places to the right to end with the number 20, and we add a percent sign. So we have 20%. The decimal 2/100ths, or 0.02, written as a percent, we start with the number 0.02 and move that decimal point 2 places to the right, giving us 2%. The decimal 2/1000ths, or 0.002, written as a percent, you bring that decimal point 2 places to the right, so we end up with 0.2%, or 2/10%. The decimal 2/10,000ths, or 0.0002, written as a percent, we take that decimal point, move it 2 places to the right to end with 0.02%, or 0.02%. The decimal 25/100ths, or 0.25, written as a percent, we take the decimal point, move it 2 places to the right to end up with 25%. Next, we look at the decimal 25/1000ths, or 0.025, written as a percent. We take the decimal point and move it 2 places to the right to end up with 2.5%, or 2.5%. Similarly, the decimal 0.0025, or 25/10,000ths, written as a percent, we take the decimal point, move it 2 places to the right to end up with 0.25%, or 0.25%. What number is 5% of 40? We rewrite this as a number sentence. What number we will call n is equals 5% of means times 40. So n equals 5% times 40. To solve this problem, we first must change 5% to a decimal. Sometimes I get confused which direction to move the decimal place. The trick I use to remember is that 1 equals 100%. To convert 100% to a decimal, I need to move the decimal place over to the left 2 places. So then I remember to convert percent to decimal, I move the decimal place back 2 places to the left. Okay, back to our problem. 5% converts to decimal by moving the decimal place back to the left 2 places to make it 0.05. And we continue the problem times 40. So now we have 0.05 times 40, and we do that calculation on the side. If you need a reminder on how to multiply decimals, please watch my earlier video, lesson 17, on multiplying decimals. So now we have 40 times 0.05. And we start by multiplying 40 times 5, which is 200. And then we need to move that decimal place 2 scoops to the left to match the product with the number of decimal places in the factor. And we write that answer back in the main part of our problem, n equals 2. So 5% of 40 equals 2, and we box our answer. Find 80% of 50. So we write that as an equation, 80% times 50. To solve that problem, we must convert 80% to a decimal. And once again, I use my little trick, 1 equals 100%, and I see that I need to move the decimal place over to the left 2 places to make a percent into a decimal. So I go back to my problem and take 80%, moving the decimal place back over to the left 2 places to make it 0.8 or 8/10 times 50. So now I have 8/10 times 50, which I do the calculation on the side. 50 times 0.8. 50 times 8 is 400, and I move the decimal 1 scoop to the left so that the product matches the factor of 0.8, so I have 40. So 8/10 times 50 equals 40, which means that 80% of 50 is 40. And we box our answer. What percent is 15% of 80%? We rewrite this question as a number sentence. What percent we will call n is equal 15%. We rewrite that. And of means times. So we have n equals 15% times 80%. To solve this problem, we first must convert the percentages to decimals. And I go back to my trick, 1 equals 100%, and I need to move my decimal place back to the left 2 places if I want to convert a percent into a decimal. So I go back to my original problem and convert 15% into the decimal 0.15 by moving the decimal point 2 places to the left, and 80% to the decimal 0.8. So now I have n equals 0.15 times 0.8. I rewrite that on the next line, leaving out all the scoops so that I have a clean equation to look at. So now I do the calculation on the side. I need to multiply 0.15 times 0.8. And we start out multiplying those decimals by ignoring the decimals and just doing this as a normal multiplication problem of whole numbers. And then when we're done finding the product, we add the total number of decimal places from both factors. In this case, there are 3 decimal places. So we go back to the product, 120, moving that decimal point back 3 places to the left to end up with 0.120 or 12/100ths. So 15% times 80% equals 12/100ths. But the question is, what percent is 15% of 80%, which means we need to convert 12/100ths into a percent, and we can go back to our reference 1 equals 100% and see that we need to move the decimal place to the right over to 2 places, giving us 12%, and we box our answer. Find the sales tax on $50 if the tax rate is 8.25%. We can reword this problem as what is 8.25% of $50. We rewrite that as a number sentence. What is, we will call y, equals 8.25% of, it means times, 50. To solve this, we first must convert 8.25% into a decimal. And I go back to my reference, 1 equals 100%. So to convert a percent into a decimal, I move the decimal point 2 places to the left. Okay, now I go back to my problem. 8.25%, I move the decimal point 2 places to the left to make it 0.0825. So I continue with the problem. 0.0825 times 50 equals y. And I rewrite that equation on the next line without all those scoops so that I keep my problem nice and clean without a lot of visual clutter. It's important to keep your equations nice and tidy when you're solving math problems so that you can minimize mistakes. So now I multiply 0.0825 times 50, and I do that calculation on the side. Always double check your side calculations to make sure you do the problems correctly. So 825 times 50 equals 41,250. And now I take the decimal point and I move it back to the left for place values. So I end up with 4.125. I will round up to 4.13. 8.25% of $50 is $4.13. Box your answer. The only way to get good at math is to do the math. Page 88 of this textbook has lots of practice problems for you to work on so that you can develop your skills. Please do as many problems as you need to get a firm handle on this material. And please check your answers with those in the back of the book to make sure you did the problems correctly.
If you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this channel with anyone you know who wants to learn math. Thank you for joining me at Do the Math America.